I'm fully committed to carry out my responsibilities as president, to carry on a program immediately of national energy conservation, and when I travel, to carry my own garment bag. And always to carry my brother Billy when he's unable to walk by himself. But I don't mind. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. Above all, we must not yield to the emotional and spiritual depression which accompanies wintertime. Now, Southerners avoid this type of seasonal depression by coming to the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And that's why I'm here now, having a good time and trying to relax and party briefly before going back to undertake my next phase of duties in Washington.
Jimmy, honey.
Excuse me? Yes, honey?
Honey, you've been up there for 2 days. Come on down. I'm worried about you.
Okay. Live from Mardi Gras, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week, we have a Mardi Gras special with many hosts and guests, including Randy Newman, Buck Henry, Eric Idle, the new Leviathan Orchestra, Penny Marshall, the Meters, although they didn't show up, Cindy Williams, Henry Winkler. This show originally aired on February 20th, 1977. Brad, it's Mardi Gras.
Gary? Yes.
Sadly, we couldn't hear you open that beer, but we know that
it's
you
what
did
the
it.
kids used to call a twofer. So let's get going.
Brad, this Mardi Gras special was chaotic and frenetic and fun. So we have some guests to join us this week. Who do we got?
So we've got back from season 1 returning guest. I'm going to mess up Ian's name as I always do. Gary, hit me up.
Ian Fermaglich.
Yes, from Ian Talks Comedy. Ian, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back. I thought that this was going to be like Mardi Gras is a French word for no parade. I thought this podcast was going to be a French word for no Dennis Perrin.
No, we got it. Oh. And yes, guest number 2, the man who helped us kick off season 2, the author of the Michael O'Donoghue biography, Mr. Mike. Dennis Perrin's back with us. Hey, Dennis.
Hello.
Thanks for coming back, Dennis. Good to have you.
Of course. I love you guys. I love your podcast. I do. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
really
you.
do. I mean it, man. I really mean it. No, I do, actually.
We appreciate that.
No, it's true. I do. Okay. Anyway,
Thank
you for having me. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. This Mardi Gras episode was, if I say unique, that's underselling it. This is a completely unique episode in the life of Saturday Night Live, right, Brad?
Well, I mean, they'd learned to never leave the studio again for 48 years. They literally never did this again. So yeah, I think it's very unique.
It's true. It's like, yeah, Michael O'Donoghue, who I knew, as I'm sure you know, always wanted to put danger into SNL, but this was the dangerous show. It really was. I mean, you're doing live sketches on the streets of New Orleans at night during Mardi Gras. That's
Right.
dangerous.
If you take any one of those pieces, live sketches at night on the street in Mardi Gras, rearrange that sentence any way you want, and it's dangerous. Like there's something bad or chaotic is about to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this episode of Saturday Night Live was completely unique, like we said, but how did it even come to be? Brad, what's the backstory on how we got here?
Well, there's kind of, I guess, 2 parts to it. One is Lorne, about really only a month earlier in January, they had this break in February and was apparently tired of the New York City winters and was like, where can we go? And somebody on the staff had some experience down in New Orleans. I forget who it was, but they were like, we should go down. He jumped on the idea. Let's go down on one of the off weeks and shoot the show. And on the NBC side of it, remember, this is where not even halfway or about halfway through season 2. They're riding the high of season 1, the Emmy wins. They've got this great show. So NBC's got like 2 kind of things on their plate. One is like, well, let's get SNL in prime time. Maybe we can start putting this in prime time and get an audience. And 2, other than Johnny, maybe Lorne Michaels can start taking over NBC late night. Let's test them out and see what happens. So it's like those kind of conversions of Lorne's really wanting to get out of New York for a week somewhere warm, and NBC trying to make the Golden Boy something he wasn't ready to be yet, kind of all, I think, came together.
Well, and he became, let's see it,
He eventually did get there, just not in 1970. He wasn't ready to take it over in 1977, but
no, he wasn't. I agree. I'll give you that. But man,
but he's there now.
He's there now, no question.
So it ends up that there's a hole on the NBC schedule because they were going to do a show from Broadway, right? I think it was Jerry Lewis's show.
Jerry Lewis, his Broadway debut, which flopped or didn't. I don't even know if it even made it to Broadway at that point.
It didn't. It fell apart because of Jerry Lewis.
Can I tell you that I'm a huge Jerry Lewis fan? In fact, I have a poster on my wall right here. You can't see it. The camera of the Patsy.
Oh,
in fact, it's a Belgian version of the Patsy. It's all in Belgian. It's weird. But anyway.
Dennis, can I just say that with love, no part of that sentence surprises me in the least, that you are a fan of Jerry Lewis and you have a Belgian poster of the Patsy. That adds up. That's all perfect. Thank you.
This tracks.
It's all right. Hey, man, look.
No, it's good.
I'm nothing if I'm not honest. I mean, I'm coming across to you.
I love it.
I want to be pure here.
Yeah.
I love you guys, so I'm not going to lie. Go ahead.
I don't want you to lie. No, it's good.
Well, no, I'm not lying. Go ahead.
So
ask me anything.
Later, we'll get to that. So
okay, we'll get to that. Okay, fine.
So Lorne gets NBC to buy into this New Orleans bit, this not gag, it's a show. And he sends some people down to talk to the mayor of New Orleans, who totally buys into this, right? Like the city of New Orleans is like, yes, we can make this happen. And everything that NBC and or Lorne asks for, the city of New Orleans is totally on board for. Oh, we'll get you hotel rooms.
Yeah,
we'll get you,
no problem.
Yeah, we can get you anything you want.
Cops, no problem. We got you covered.
So then from a production standpoint, they feel good going into this. They're like, yes, we can do this with, I forget, it's like 5 or 6 weeks, right? Like it's not a lot of time before.
That's the thing. We're going to spend a lot of time here ripping on this show, but we should point out this idea shows up in his head in January. So it's literally they have like a month to plan this extremely ambitious project of live on the streets during everything we said during Mardi Gras. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of time to put all these pieces together.
It's crazy, man. It's a crazy idea, which I love.
I don't think anybody in the crew really thought this was a great idea. Dave Wilson had shot a Perry Como special in Mardi Gras a few years prior, and he told Lorne, like, you are out of your mind. This is a horrible idea. It's like, this is crazy.
But here's the thing. Second season SNL, and Gary and Brad, we've talked about this. The second season is the most dangerous season, really. I mean, it's the one that really went out there. So it's obvious that it takes place. This wouldn't take place if it took place in the third or fourth season, maybe. But the thing is, it'd be like a Dean Martin special. I mean, it'd be like a prime. This was like, no, man, we're SNL, we're emerging, we're this new thing, and we're gonna go to New Orleans and we're gonna like fuck it up, and they did. In more ways than one.
They did.
I mean,
well, one last point just before we get into it was one thing that the crew and cast were kind of caught off guard with was their reception in New Orleans, right? Like they went down there and they were total rock stars, right, Ian?
Yeah, they went to a mall and had a signing, and people brought in their toilets from home to get signed by them. I read in an article that Gilda would when walking down the streets, people would come, crowding towards her, and she'd turn around and go, "Oh, look, it's Henry Winkler," and then they would just go the other way. And this is where Jane started wearing the big floppy hat and the big sunglasses, which she continued for the rest of her tenure there. People were just all around them.
Yeah,
people were crazy. I don't think the cast and crew understood outside of New York, even because New York is very different, but going outside of New York, then they didn't expect the reception that they got from the general public, which was just hand.
I mean, the thing is that again, this is when SNL emerges really around this time. It becomes like a national thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to some hippie late night stoner show, I mean, now it's like Ed Sullivan. It's that big.
Well, and because it's so big, we can see it throughout this episode, how many people are invested in this live production. So should we just get into it? I think there's so much to get into.
Yeah, let's
let the nitpicking begin. Let's Monday morning quarterback the shit out of this episode.
I think we're way past Monday morning. We're like on to Saturday evening.
We're on Tuesday afternoon after like 3 cocktails. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the cold open starts with a close-up on Dan as President Carter talking to the American people about the current economic situation in the U.S. There's an energy crisis, job crisis. And finally, his wife, Rosalind, played by Lorraine, again, calls to him from the crowd. Like I said, there's a very large crowd here that's gathered to hear.
Well, that's going to be a reoccurring theme. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And Lorraine, as Rosalind says, you've been up there for 2 days. And that's when the camera pulls out and you see that he's on the statue of Andrew Jackson in Jackson Square. And he says that to fight seasonal depression, Southerners have Mardi Gras. So he's going to enjoy himself for the next couple of days before he has to go back to Washington. And then he says, live from Mardi Gras, it's Saturday night.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Ian, how'd you feel about this cold open?
I liked it. It's one of the few things on the show that seems like it could have been done in 8H, even though obviously it was outside. It was written like, a regular opening. And I love the audience pop when he quotes, "He ain't heavy, he's my brother."
Oh, they love the Billy Carter joke.
Dennis,
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I just thought, wow, they went out of the studio and just, and like, we're like doing this, and that audience, you're right. I don't know how many people were there. I have no idea. I mean, they're all like screaming, and I'm like, wow, SNL has arrived.
Yeah. This was another piece, Brad, where it felt like Jim Downey had some kind of input in the sketch because there was such specifics.
Well, there's definitely some Downey lines where he early on, he's like, there's a permanent energy crisis. It's going to get worse and not better. Classic line. I agree with you. That being said, I didn't love it that much myself. Taking away Dennis's point of, the show arriving or being there, taking it as a sketch on its own, I didn't think there was much there, but I understand why they would open with this. This is the show, remember, going to prime time. So what do you open with? You open with something everybody either not can relate to, but knows, the president. Everybody knows the president. So put your Jimmy Carter impression on right off the bat. And it's Dan. Can't go wrong with Dan. So I get it. Totally made sense. Like, is it the best? No. And remember too, he hasn't gotten to the end of his tenure. Remember, you mentioned Jim Downey. Downey's only been on for like a month at this point, 3 weeks.
No, you're right. No, he was
not that long.
He and Bill Murray came on at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't like end of season 2 where you can really feel that presence there. But I agree. I like it. It was a decent opening. I don't like the large crowds throughout this episode. I think it really takes away, and I think I'll mention it later, but I don't love their performances in front of large crowds. I think it really takes away from what they're trying to do. But overall, it was not bad. And then, it worked.
Yeah, no, I think the point about, it being Carter for a primetime audience and something a little more general.
It's the perfect opening.
Sense.
It's the perfect opening for a primetime introducing the show to maybe more mass America. It's the perfect sketch for that, though. I give it that.
And then it throws to our opening sequence, which is entirely new for New Orleans. So it's all shots in and around the city. Yeah, it was great. And even
I wish they used that cast opening for the rest of the season, actually, to be honest with you. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a little more fun.
I mean, they're all live, they're all like out
very fun
in the world, and it's fantastic. I loved it.
It influenced the Times Square season 3 intro.
Yeah, it's
I
a good
think
point.
you're right. Yeah,
Probably.
Ian, Ian, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it did.
That's a good point, Ian. Yeah.
Totally.
From there, then they introduced Randy Newman, who is set up in the Mahalia Jackson Center for Performing Arts with a full orchestra behind him. And he starts right in on Louisiana 1927 from his, I believe this is on Good Old Boys, right, Brad?
Oh, yeah. It's a good album. That was his first album that kind of had success, commercial success. I think it was like a top 40 album. It was the lead track on the B-side. I love that album. It's a great album. But I still think as much as, and I'm a Randy Newman fan, and granted he loves New Orleans, there's kind of that connection, but interesting choice to lead off your primetime special in 1977? Question mark.
Interesting choice. I mean, well, why was he? Do we want to talk about why he was in the Center for
That's what I'm
Performing
saying.
Arts?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, no,
just like
that's
him himself. He's not a huge star at this point. Like he has one album to his name that came out a few years ago. It was, like I said, I think it was like 35 or 36. So he's not like the Randy Newman we know now. His next album that comes out the next year has like Short People on it, and he becomes a top 10 artist. But at this point, I think it's kind of an interesting choice as your de facto Paul Simon, if you will.
Dennis, did you know who Randy Newman was in 1977?
Actually, I did, as a matter of fact. Weirdly enough, because my stepmother, who was a crazy old bitch, she was into Randy Newman. And so she used to play him. But
when you were watching this show, was it kind of a surprise to you that
No. I didn't know to be honest with you, I didn't know who he was.
And remember too, this is mid-season 2. Howard Shore has said like him and Lauren are still booking the show off their own record collection. It's like people they like. I mean, Randy Newman's a friend of the show. We saw him in episode 2 in season 1, and he does have the connection to the city, so it kind of makes sense.
Well, the song he sings is Louisiana 1927.
Right.
Which is about a tragic flood which destroyed almost 1 million homes in Louisiana and Mississippi. So it's not the most upbeat song going into this very festive episode. Ian, how did you like
festive?
Yeah. Ian, what were your thoughts on this song?
Yeah, it's a depressing song. But as a teacher, when you can put Calvin Coolidge in your lyrics, it's pretty good.
I mean,
many songs.
Depressing, yes, but I don't know. I love this song. This is a great song.
I think it's beautiful.
I like this as an opening for the show of being in New Orleans. I dig it. I don't think you needed the orchestra. Like it made it too.
It could have just been him on piano. Yeah.
Like Randy Newman as an artist is great. And maybe because he wasn't that established, he thought he had to go bigger. But like the album track of this song is awesome. And I don't think you needed this big orchestra to make it any bigger than it needed to be. I don't know.
I think it's Lauren's thing. He wanted this to be a big show. He wanted it, obviously.
Grand.
I mean, he wanted to come out and just say, look, we've arrived. This is us. We got an orchestra. We can do anything we want. That's the feeling I got from this.
Yeah.
To your point, Gary, I do agree with you. It is this particular song is a little bit of an odd choice, especially when it ends and Randy Newman turns and goes, "Thank you very much. Welcome to Mardi Gras." Because nothing says Mardi Gras like this song.
Right? Mm-hmm. That was I thought the song was beautiful. I enjoyed the orchestra with him. Yeah. But then that turn to, welcome to Mardi Gras. And he gives kind of a de facto monologue mentioning what's going to happen and that the not ready for primetime players are scattered throughout the city. And then he throws to Jane and Buck, who are reporting from the Bacchus parade. It just seemed a little off at that moment for me.
That moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep
that
going.
Moment, right, exactly. Every moment that they went to Buck and Jane. Man.
Well, yeah. So they go to Buck and Jane.
I mean, we should say, just to backtrack a little bit, the cold open, I should say, that there's a story about 10 minutes apparently before they were supposed to go live. The camera truck powering, the video feed at the statue, like they lost power. So like 10 minutes before they're supposed to go live, they didn't know what the hell was going to happen for a few minutes.
Right.
Like every bit tonight is almost a miracle it even made it, whether it was good or bad.
Well, I think that's one of the things about Randy Newman being at the Center for performing arts was that was kind of their home base where they knew they could go back to. There was an audience there.
It was the anchor. It was the
right.
anchor.
It was their anchor for everything, and it wasn't on the fly like everything else.
It makes sense.
Well, because their other anchor was supposed to be this parade that we're going to cut to
right. Exactly. Which
this was their other
up.
fallback when oh, this doesn't work. We'll just go to the parade with Buck and Jane. Cue the parade.
So we go to Jane and Buck, who are out at the Bacchus parade above the crowd, and immediately they are having just crap thrown at them.
I know that's awesome. Actually,
from the beginning,
it's one of my favorite periods in
already
SNL history that people were throwing garbage at them. I think
the very first time they go to them, they're just already throwing shit at them.
It's fantastic.
In 5 seconds, Jane gets one right in the temple.
Right.
Yeah.
She does. And they're like, they do have some jokes set up at the beginning of this, but then because they're having so much stuff thrown at them, they immediately both look very uncomfortable. And Jane then mentions that the parade is delayed. So they throw to one of the more recent traditions, the annual Hit Al Hurt with a Brick contest.
That's O'Donoghue.
Right.
Yeah.
So we cut to John dressed up as Al Hurt, who is a famous trumpeter at this point, playing outside of the Al Hurt Club, and he's immediately hit by a brick and then several other bricks and then a bunch of other random objects, and he keeps falling and getting back up, and then eventually it's like a wiffle ball bat and a rubber chicken gets thrown at him.
Well, no, there are beer cans. If you notice, people are throwing beer cans at him.
Wiffle ball bats, couple of wiffle ball bats get thrown in.
So Dennis, this is a Michael O'Donoghue piece.
It's Michael. Yeah, he wrote that. I mean, it was just it's a stupid piece. I mean, just hit Al Hurt in the mouth with a brick. I mean,
which happened.
Anything more O'Donoghue than that? I mean, just like boom, boom, boom. Right. Anyway, that was his.
But it is something that actually happened, to Brad's point, and then he just elevates it to the next level. He just
takes it and keeps going and going with it. And
I know it's fantastic, and of course he's not playing the trumpet. I mean, it's all dubbed, but I mean, nevertheless, John takes the body for the show.
He does.
You know what I mean?
Keeps
and
dropping
not
to
the
street.
First time nor the last time that he did that.
Ian, big Al Hurt fan?
No.
Okay.
Moving on.
Funny.
I think I hit the face of the brick. That's all I know about him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's
hit him with the brick,
all we
baby.
need to know
That's
about him, right?
Yeah, he deserved it. Yeah, right. Exactly.
But Ian, did you like the sketch?
I mean, for what it was, it's a blackout, not even a sketch, and that's not a bad thing. It was funny.
So then we go from there back to Buck, who very quickly has like one or two quick jokes and then throws to a filmed message while they wait for, that's what it was. He throws to a filmed message while he waits for Al to regain consciousness. And it is a repeat commercial of Quarry from season 2, episode.
Again,
go with a classic.
Yeah, this is a great classic commercial, in my opinion. Ian, how do you feel about Quarry?
It's better tasting because it's mine.
How good is that? How good is that song? God
I was just going to say, it's one of the best songs for a commercial parody, maybe in all of SNL history. It's so good.
Michael wrote that with, I don't know if it was I don't know if it was Paul Schaefer or Howard Shore. I don't know I don't know who wrote the music for it, but Michael wrote the lyrics. It's his
song's
sketch.
Amazing.
It's his sketch.
Well, we come back from there to Penny Marshall, who is handing beers to Rhonda and Sherry, and they are lamenting the fact that they can't meet any guys at Mardi Gras.
Because everyone came to Mardi Gras to meet guys, even the guys.
Even the guys, yes. But suddenly, the Wild Bee Motorcycle Club shows up.
Hi, girl. We're the Shriners Drill Team. Oh, come on. No, seriously. We're the Wild Bees Motorcycle Club from National City, California. I'm the Scab, this is Jake the Snake, and this is the Tongue. Now, one of you has got to be interested in the Tongue, okay?
Hi. these guys?
I don't know, but I think Scab's a real fox.
We just rode in from Corpus Christi, Texas. We blew up a small town for a friend. We need some girls to take care of us. We don't know how to cook and how to sew. We don't know.
Do you want to go? I don't know. Do you want to go? Do you want to go? He's got a decent-looking hog there, and he ain't got no sissy boss, so... Okay, Tongue, take me.
Yeah!
Brad, this was just felt like a sketch to get motorcycles, right?
No, oh, exactly. I have the note, bees on bikes. One guess whose idea that was.
Bees
And
on
you only
bikes.
need one
I love
to guess
that.
who
That's
thought
great.
this was. Great idea.
Mhm.
Right off the bat, I mean, this is an interesting grouping. Sherry, Rhonda Weiss, and Penny Marshall.
Yeah.
Looking her most coherent of the evening, I'm just going to say. This is just weird, but this is the first instance I noticed where I felt like this sketch was really, this is the kind of stuff really hard to do out in the open instead of the stage. You know what I mean? Like your audience is a huge crowd of drunks far away, not really paying attention to what you're doing. Like, how do you do this as a performer?
Right.
I just felt this was the first instance where like, the cameras are far away. And it was the first instance of things just not really clicking with them being live on the streets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dennis, how'd you feel about the bees on bikes?
It's the bees. I mean, I'm with John Belushi. I mean, he hated the bees from like episode 2, I mean, and I'm with him, I mean, I obviously I have, tremendous nostalgic connection to the bees, but they're the bees. I mean, there's only so much you can do with them. And of course, Danny is great. I mean, my God. I mean, he back then he could do no wrong. I mean, he was so good, so precise, so beautiful, right? So
He really was.
you can put antenna. You can put antenna on him anytime. Just throw him out there.
Oh, it's like you throw an antenna on him and then give him a character, and you just say to him like, "Danny, your character's name is the Tongue," and then he comes up with something really quick, and that's what he does.
Yeah,
and it's funny, and it's one of the only things that draws a laugh from this entire sketch.
Right. No, I'm telling you exactly. See, this is the thing. The bees, they're just a visual device to remind you that this is Saturday Night Live.
Right.
At the time, that's all it is.
Ian, was it anything more for you?
No, this was the first one that sketch that was just like, yeah, if there were VCRs in 1977, I'd be hitting fast forward. But Dan did write that so they could rent a Harley.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's that. Yeah. There's that. Yeah.
We have a commercial for Garrett Morris sings Fats Domino. So Garrett Morris, a son of New Orleans, Fats Domino, a son of New Orleans, and a very popular singer at this time. And it's just Garrett at a piano singing,
doing the
snippets,
same, like
doing the same, same 3 or 4 notes at a time.
Right.
Singing the same and singing riffs from different Fats Domino songs. And the Chiron comes over with a list of a bunch of Fats Domino songs. And then it does again. It's the same list of songs. And he's like, you can have this album for only $49.95. And he's like, and I'll sing that. What was it? I Found My Thrill twice.
I sing his biggest hit twice.
Yes. Ian, how do you feel about Garrett? And this guy?
I like Garrett. I love him singing, and I looked it up, and $49.95 is $254 in 2023.
Wow!
Thank you for looking that up. I appreciate that. Wow!
Inflation. What are you going to do?
That's an expensive album.
Exactly.
And I always heard the thing sound better on vinyl. So
yeah.
So you're right. I mean, it's a classic, right?
I feel like this was Garrett's only piece of the night, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a bummer. Because he'd written and composed his own song called Walking Down Bourbon Street. He wanted to perform, and I mean, this is like a reoccurring theme of like, we feel sorry for Garrett, but especially he's a New Orleans native. He's in his hometown. He wrote this song, like, especially when we start talking about what does get on this show later on. It's like, it's just a bummer that this is really the only time you feature Garrett is parroting Fats Domino.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fine sketch. It's okay, but like looking in hindsight in the grand scheme of it, it's like, I could have done something better.
After Garrett and his Fats Domino commercial, we go back to Randy Newman at the Performing Arts Center where he performs Marie, also from
not gonna
Good
save
Old
us.
Boys.
Mhm.
Go on, Brad. What do you mean by that?
This was so.
That was it?
This song. No, I mean, I love Randy Newman, and this song just felt so out of place. Especially with the orchestra. I mean, I don't know.
Did anyone like this performance more than Brad did? No, because we can just move on. We've got a lot of crap to cover. We don't need to pick apart Randy Newman all night.
Yeah, Randy Newman's musical pieces stopped the show, slowed it. You know, like it's like a speed bump. Like, no, okay, I'm into this. Because
the show was really moving at a good clip at this point too, which is a goddamn shame.
No, I know.
Are you talking about the podcast or the show itself that we're talking about? Because I'm not sure that either one is moving.
Both, obviously. I mean, you're trying. Look, I'm not saying that SNL and Mardi Gras sketch-wise was like a rolling locomotive. You know, it wasn't. Okay, it came and went, blue, blah blah. But when you bring in Randy Newman for another song, it's like, okay, we're stopping it all.
Does not help. I agree. Yes.
Yeah. And you're going to like listen to this song. And it's like, well, where's the comedy? I mean, I know the comedy's bad so far, but I mean, where is it?
This was the anchor. And because the Bacchus Parade was a spectacle and wasn't happening, like they were going to Randy Newman more than I think they originally thought they were going to.
And he has, and he has and he has, you know, plenty of songs, man. Like play this one, play that one. You know, he can do it. So you got it, right? You know, he was the anchor.
Well, and they did end up going to him more than they wanted to. He was only supposed to do 3 songs because everything was going so bad. They threw a 4th one to him, which
But I think also they probably went to him earlier in the show because they weren't expecting the parade to be so delayed. So this was like loaded up front while we wait for the parade.
Well, yeah, there's 2 things. One, the parade is MIA, but 2, they never were able to dress this. You know, every episode they do a dress rehearsal where they time the shit out of it. So they know exactly how long each sketch is. They rearrange shit. They know where stuff is going. They couldn't even do their dress rehearsal during the day. It took like 6 hours because they couldn't get people where they were, and they had no idea how long stuff was going. So it's a good point, Gary, to your thing. They know what Randy Newman's doing. They know how long the song is. Put him in there and give us like 4 minutes of calm to like figure shit out. And where do we go the next 3 pieces? So it's a good point that you make, that you bring up. Yeah.
Well, I'm on a roll with making good points. So here we go. Gary Weiss's film is this interview with the guy at the cemetery. This is another Gary Weiss film where it's a character piece, right? He's interviewing someone, a real life person who's a character. And we've seen this with a bunch of pieces and it seems to work. I liked this guy. I thought he was amusing. Ian, how did you feel about the cemetery worker?
I liked him. I thought he was amusing, like the one that I did with you before with the guy on the garbage dump, who I thought was amusing.
Right.
When you get a guy with a nice Guernsey accent talking about painting in a cemetery, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Could you understand what this guy was saying? I mean, I'm old, not as old as some of us on this panel, but like my hearing might be going. I just couldn't understand what the guy was saying.
Really?
I caught the word crab once or twice.
He was
about a 25-inch crab.
Yeah, it's like that Louisianan gravel voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, and it's fine. I mean, it fills in the space. You don't have to write a sketch. You know, you're like just like, you know, we're just going to show this film.
Yeah. Gary, tell us about this next bit. You must have been excited because we come back from Gary Weiss and we have your boy, Tom Snyder, on the street doing a Tomorrow sketch.
Yeah. So we get the Tomorrow show from Mardi Gras, which is Dan as Tom Snyder again. And I was excited about this because I thought, okay, this is another Right, primetime shows. So this is a recognizable character to the mainstream audience, and this is Dan doing that character, and he is outside of a topless and bottomless bar where he interviews Bill, who is playing the honker, and he introduces him to Velocity, who's played by Cindy Williams.
Velocity.
Sir, what is your name?
The honker. Everybody just calls me the honker around here.
All right, Mr. Honker. I take it that your job is to entice people to come into this establishment. Am I correct, sir?
Well, I personally have nothing to offer, but if you're the kind of person who likes booze and bras, then you got to check this out. We have the most beautiful girls in town and continuous entertainment, but with no cover, and the drinks are only $1.25.
Oh, well, that sounds just
And
terrific.
this time, Mr. Snyder, the Pink Lady, is proud to present you with a complimentary hurricane made up of 4 different kinds of rum with a delicious fruit-flavored punch.
Thank you very much. Young lady, what is your name?
Velocity.
All right, Velocity, I'm going to ask you a few questions, but I'm going to make it short because I don't want to make you get cold. Now, you're one of the topless and bottomless performers here at the Pink Lady. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How many hours a day do you work?
7.
And how much of that time are you actually dancing?
Oh, 15 minutes an hour.
So, well, so that's about how many hours a week dancing?
Oh, I would say 9.25 hours a week.
All right. And how long have you been employed at the Pink Lady?
18 months.
So that's about how many total dancing hours?
620.
It was a long trip, but it was funny.
It was, yes, I agree. And then Tom Snyder's like, well, I'm going to go inside. So then it's just Bill outside, and Bill as the honker is getting folks to come in by saying, TV's Tom Snyder's inside. Come on in and see. And we see Al Franken in his Minnesota Vikings jacket.
Tom Davis and Emily Prager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were dating at the time, as a matter of fact.
Oh, there we go.
It was funny because you mentioned, Tom Snyder goes inside. And it's like, okay, when in doubt, hand Bill Murray a microphone.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized like he had only been on the show for a month at this point. This is still early Bill Murray.
Right.
And it's I think he's really good. Like you said, the honker character.
He steps up, man. He
does step up. But like, where was this character? Like, we see the honker again, like 4 or 5 times during, the original run. He brings it back a couple times when he hosts in the 80s and the 90s. It's like, it's pretty much Carl from Caddyshack. But where was this character the second half of season 2? Like, this is a really good Bill Murray performance that then kind of just gets shunned for some reason. This is another one to me. I felt like it didn't play well in the openness of Out in the Streets. I felt like, if you were smaller, it would have been better. And for some reason, I didn't love Cindy Williams. I felt like you needed like the celebrity opposite Tom Snyder. Because this is the first time we kind of saw him with an everyday person, quote unquote. And for me, I lost something there. So those are my takeaways on this one.
Ian, what was your takeaway from this Tomorrow Show?
I like the sketch. I like the math. And when you watch old Tom Snyder shows, which I sometimes do because I have no life, he very rarely has celebrities on, and he usually talks to people like that. So,
Dennis, how do you?
No, it's true. Like, hello, everybody. I'm Tom Snyder. That whole thing. Yeah. I'm with Ian on this one, man. I don't think it really plays all that much. I get it, obviously, and you're trying to put him in a risque situation because when you watch the old Tomorrow Show back in the day, there was an element of that. Like he would interview porn stars, so it wasn't like outside of his purview.
What do you think, Gary? Because I know you love, we both like Dan, but I know you love his Tom Snyder. And how did you feel? Because to me, I thought this is one of his weaker Tom Snyders. But what do you think? Because I know you like watching his Tom Snyder.
I kind of felt the same way that you did, in that it was kind of too big of a space for Dan. I think it felt constricting, but I also really liked Bill in this sketch because he was so new to the show, and it kind of felt like he was getting into his own, although like you said, we kind of lose that later in the season, but it felt good to me. So yeah, I wanted more from the Tom Snyder, but I liked that they brought him in because he is someone who is recognizable to the primetime audience, I guess. Right. So
yeah, makes sense.
But from there, we go back to Jane and Buck at their stand, still waiting for the Bacchus parade and still having stuff thrown at them. And I think, Dennis, you mentioned this earlier briefly. The whole time that Buck and Jane are there, Zweibel and
Herb Sargent's there with them.
Yeah, right. But I mean, he's writing jokes on paper, like just like here you go, here you go. He's under the desk. I mean, that's like, courage, under duty. I mean, it's just like, I'm doing this, here, take this. I mean, like one of those jokes, I think Zweibel wrote it. It was like, Mardi Gras means no parade or something.
The
like
end joke.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was, of course, obviously, but you're just throwing shit up here. I dig that, man. It'd be fantastic.
Those guys spent a week writing jokes about a parade that never made it. Like right. Literally, I don't know if we said, like there was apparently like an accident earlier in the parade route, which caused the parade, which again, no one really knew what was going on because it's 1977 and, the communication isn't what it is today. So all people know is there's no parade. And the people there, like, I think half of them thought like it was the show's fault. Like they delayed the parade coming through. So like they're getting angry and you spend all this time writing jokes and now you're on the air and you literally are making it up live on the spot. So Dennis Boy, like Zweibel's under the desk, like writing shit and passing it up and her, like they're making all of this up mostly on the spot.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that's the ultimate in live TV, isn't it? Really? I mean, and it really is the ultimate of SNL in its early days.
That baton joke dies, and you get a glare. You get a glare from Jane straight down at where I think Zweibel was.
Right. That was a shame because I actually liked that baton joke. Thought it was good.
I love the effort. I just think it's fantastic. I don't care if the jokes land.
Right.
I just love the fact that they're doing it. No, man, all love, all respect. Even if the jokes don't land, I don't give a shit, man. Just, I love the effort.
I agree. So they talk about the king of the Bacchus parade this year is supposed to be Henry Winkler, or will be Henry Winkler.
Right.
And in advance
the
of that,
biggest star at the time,
yeah, Baba Wawa did an interview with Henry Winkler. So they throw to the pre-taped interview, and she's talking about the difference between him and the Fonz with Henry Winkler. And then he switches back and forth between the character and himself. And he's talking about meeting women and how the Fonz takes the women, and it's back and forth. And then Baba Wawa wants to know if the Fonz is more beloved than she is. And it again comes back to how much is she loved versus whomever she's talking to. I thought this was great to see Henry Winkler have fun with the character of the Fonz and himself as a famous person at this point. Brad, how'd you feel about this Henry Winkler?
I agree with you. I like the back and forth when he's doing. He would go from Henry Winkler to the Fonz and in and out of character. That was fun to watch. And the end joke kind of made me chuckle when he's trying to get her to pronounce Winkler properly, and he keeps rushing and over, and by the end, he starts saying it the Baba Wawa way.
Right.
So yeah, it was fine. It was good. It was an interesting twist because it felt like this was the first Baba Wawa sketch that wasn't about Baba Wawa. It was more Fonz than Baba Wawa, which I liked.
I'm glad he was there. I wish he was live. That's all I'll say.
I wonder if he would have been live. I was going to say, I wonder if he would have been if the parade made it through, if they would have been covering the parade when he came through, and we would have actually seen him live at some point.
I think so. I think that's likely how it would have gone, right? Ian, you a Fonz fan?
Oh, actually, Henry Winkler is like one of my top 5 favorite people of all time, and I got to meet him as my birthday present this year. He was signing his autobiography, and everyone was allowed to, you could shake his hand, you can ask him one question. And I asked him about this.
Really?
I asked him about what was his memories, and he was like, the float killed somebody, and it ran over somebody.
Is that what happened? Is that really what? I know there was an accident. Was it like a float killed somebody? Yeah. Is that true?
And I never got to be on Saturday Night Live. He goes, I did the piece with Emily Latella. He suffers from dyslexia. So he would never do Saturday Night Live because of the cue cards.
Right.
So this was a way to get him in a sketch where he wouldn't have to read cue cards.
I mean, you want the Fonz on SNL at the same time when they're both like this huge cultural thing. Boom, right? And and you know Lauren wanted that, man. Believe me.
I bet Lauren wanted Farrah Fawcett Majors to show up too.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm amazed she never hosted, to be quite honest with you. Or Lee Majors, if you want to get down to it. But I mean, okay.
Jane and Buck are still on the
Oh,
riser, waiting for
we're
the
getting
parade.
back to the show again. I'm sorry.
Still going.
Can I just say one thing? Henry Winkler has never looked like his cousin Richard Belzer more than in that interview.
Oh, no shit.
I didn't know they were cousins.
Me neither.
No,
Again,
but
Ian, you're teaching me, man.
Ian, just
and I'm not
dropping
being
knowledge.
sarcastic.
No, I'm looking at a picture,
serious.
and you
I
are
didn't know
correct,
that.
sir.
They're cousins. Henry Winkler and Richard Belzer are cousins.
It's not just the haircut.
Really?
No, the haircut in that interview makes him look like Richard Belzer.
Very much, yeah.
But I didn't know they were related.
And also DNA, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Huh.
Belzer. And you know, we'll go back, you know, the original SNL, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Right. We go back to Jane and Buck again quickly. Buck is talking about...
not quickly. This is a long-ass intro.
Buck is talking... I mean, that's all relative. Buck is talking about some of his favorite Mardi Gras traditions, including the recreations of the crossing of the bayou. And tonight they're going to show the recreation of Mussolini's visit to New Orleans in 1940.
Right.
And so we then go to John, who's on a balcony, and he comes out onto the balcony above a giant crowd of Mardi Gras revelers who are there, and he's trying to silence the crowd. He says, with his Italian accent, because he's playing Mussolini, that he's going to try in English, and he says, "Boy, you people sure know how to party." And then the crowd goes wild. That was this sketch, Brad. Being the John fan that you are, how much did you love this?
I didn't love it. This is another one. Just something about this image, the huge ass crowd, the wide shots just doesn't feel right to me on Saturday Night Live. And basically, you said it. This was all a sketch for John to say, "Boy, you people sure know how to throw a party."
It could have been. It just could have been John.
This could have been. This should have just been a promo and let it go.
Seriously,
or that. Yeah, I don't know.
My favorite part of this sketch was Buck then tells us that it was Benito Mussolini's grandson, Ricky, who's playing him. Yeah,
Ricky,
who's I believe a
great name,
a van salesman in northern Louisiana, I think is what it was.
Right, that's funny. I like that.
Then we go back to Jane and Buck just because, and they give us some history of the parade. And Jane then throws to Eric Idle for some crowd reaction. So Idle is in a remote section of the French Quarter at a cafe where he tells the camera that there was quite the carnival atmosphere here a few moments ago.
The place was literally packed with revelers, holidaymakers, wearing beads and singing and dancing. There was a real carnival atmosphere, and we were all having a really fun time until a couple of moments ago. Literally crowds of people were literally thronging these streets. Literally hundreds of gay, happy folk were literally flocking all over the place. So what a pity they've all gone. Well, as you can see, the carnival gaiety right now seems to be coming not so much from here as, in fact, from elsewhere. So let's go right away over somewhere else. Well, in fact, they say no. Apparently, we have some little technical problem, so we must stay here. Which, in fact, gives me time to tell you that at the moment it's quite quiet here in the French Quarter, but recently it's been much noisier. Well, with the reveller over here, I think I can see. Why don't we just go over and ask him what he's doing here and how he's enjoying Mardi Gras. Sir, how are you doing enjoying Mardi Gras? Fine. So, just to recap, This is, as you know, Mardi Gras, and we are coming live from it. And we're having a heck of a lot of fun. You bet. Mardi Gras, incidentally, means Fat Tuesday and is named after the legendary New Orleans singer, Fat Tuesday. He was a friend of Fats Domino and Fats Waller. There were three of them, all fat, and one Tuesday.
This was, to me, a classic Eric Idle sketch. How did you feel about this?
I thought this was really funny. I thought Eric Idle was good. I wondered if that was Tom Schiller who took the faceplant as the drunk guy.
Yeah.
And Eric Idle's funny.
I love that piece, actually. I agree with Ian. It was very funny. Eric is, he's good in those moments. I mean, he really is. He could pull it. Of course, he could pull it off.
Well, I really enjoyed this sketch, but I don't know that I enjoyed the next piece as much as I wanted to.
As we call it, another film by Gary Weiss.
Is this the Dixie? Is this the Dixie film?
Yeah. So this
I don't know what you're going to say, dude. This thing is so short. You can't pick on it. I thought this was fine.
Well, you couldn't get away with it today. I can tell you that. There's no fucking way. But I mean, Dixie, 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 Dixie.
This is just Gary Weiss.
But that's the South. And it was the 70s. I mean, what are you going to do?
1977, baby.
That's right, baby. Woo! We lived back then.
We didn't.
In any event,
so we can say that this was just Gary Weiss showing how many businesses were called Dixie down south, while playing the song Dixie. Yeah. My favorite part of this actually was the editing, that he just edited this, or someone. Let's not pretend like Gary Weiss did the editing. Someone edited this to the song, and I thought that was really well done. I will say that the next piece is probably Brad's highlight of the evening, because it is the only time I got pissed off. This is the new Leviathan Foxtrot Orchestra singing Rebecca Came Back from Mecca. And Brad loves this because it was written in 1921.
Oh, my guess was 1931.
No, it was 1921.
And you know who brought that band on?
Michael.
Yeah.
I know.
Why did Michael bring this band on?
Because he loved them. He played their music in his apartment. Really? I remember back, it was later. Obviously, it wasn't then. I was in high school, but later, years later. But he loved them. And there was this idea to bring them on, and he thought that they would be perfect for the Mardi Gras show. And he convinced Lauren to book them. So the new Leviathan Orchestra was totally Michael. He didn't write the music, obviously, but he brought them on. He got them the stage.
To this point in the show, this musical number had more energy than any other musical number we've seen. And this guy, this lead singer had not only a killer mustache and was holding his banjo just waiting to play. He's a pretty decent singer amongst all of this. So I enjoyed this more than I thought I might.
He looked like a head waiter at like a Pizza Hut in the 70s, man. Seriously, I'm like, wow, shit.
I think they're better than the old Leviathan Foxtrot Orchestra, but
I loved it personally. It was brief. It was vibrant. It injected energy into the show. It was live, all of it.
Brad hated this.
Are you guys all fucking with me?
No, I am not.
No, I agree with you, Brad.
What?
I was like, what if, oh my God, if you're taking your late night hip comedy show and trying to put it on primetime to show people, you put this on? Until I researched and found out that, Michael O'Donoghue was a fan, I couldn't fathom why this band was on. I was like, there was at least, you could have found a better local New Orleans act, like Rebirth Brass Band. Garrett
you could have had Sticks.
The Meters.
You could have Sticks on.
These are from Atlanta.
But still, no, I loved it personally. And it's not just because Michael got them on. I just love the energy, and the performance of
Oh
it.
my good. This was the only time I was like upset at something they put on. Everything else, like they were taking swings. I was like, yes, you guys are trying. I was like, why? And it's funny. Apparently the Meters kind of agreed to give them this spot and they were going to go on last. And then the Meters get bumped. And now that we've seen the Meters, a month or two later, it's like the Meters would have been so much better than this. I mean,
but aren't they better in 8H than they would have been in New Orleans? I mean, maybe the Meters, thematically would have been fine.
I would say no, but I hated this act.
There's a lot of stuff on this show that I would rather have watched the Meters than, and this act was not one of them. Like
oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Look, what was it, like 90 seconds, 2 minutes tops?
Yeah, it was short.
It was so brief. Number. It's like this boom, 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 and we're out. I loved it. I love that kind of music, and not because Michael loved them. I thought that they were great. I do. I agree with you. The Meters got fucked. I got fucked out of a primetime spot. But as you said, they showed up on the show later, right? I mean,
yeah.
And in the studio, they're not on, they're not in a big theater. They're not in front of a bunch of people who are drunk and throwing confetti, So it's probably better.
Drunk and throwing confetti means we should go back to Jane and Buck one more time, just so they can tell us that the parade is still delayed and give us some more facts about the parade. They then throw to Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams at the Apollo. So we go to the Apollo, but Cindy Williams isn't there, and Penny Marshall is. And Brad, this is where she had an adventure, let's say, getting to the Apollo, right?
I mean, Cindy Williams was literally lost, couldn't find her way to the venue, and Penny Marshall just figuratively lost, I guess, because she just looks out of it. But yeah, she apparently finished that first sketch we saw outside with the bees, and then she had been like working on Laverne and Shirley and took a red eye and was exhausted and tired, and so she's like out of it at this point, and apparently jumped on the back of a motorcycle she thought was with production, and the guy starts driving her away, and then she realizes he wasn't, so she tells him where he's got to go, to the Apollo ball, and of course he's like, sure, I'll take you there, and then starts like crazily driving her through the city, over sidewalks, through crowds of people. So she shows up and she's like, her nerves are just like on edge. And then this bit, the Apollo ball, was actually directed by Gary Weiss. And apparently they had like lost communication with Lauren at this point. I've also read a story where Gary Weiss wasn't there at this point because he was actually like in a booth or something watching the short film we were just talking about being aired. Mm-hmm. But so there's like all this confusion, like you said, and Penny's just like, what's happening? And then they try to throw it to her and she just doesn't know what to do. And not like in a good, funny way, this is a sad, scary kind of way.
She looks like someone who's never done any TV, let alone live TV.
I agree with you, Gary. You think, especially Penny Marshall, I mean, given her creds, but I was actually surprised to see her kind of flummoxed on live camera. I was like, whoa, what? So
it was rough.
The expert that she was sitting next to, Robert, I couldn't get that last name, but I read an article about him. They promised to pay him and they never did.
Yeah.
He was
really?
Yeah, he was like one of the main guys, right? Main organizers or something.
Right. And he was going to tell them before air the stuff that they were supposed to say. But then when it all got mixed up, he just came on camera and he was supposed to get like some money for that. And an article from 5 years ago, he says he never got paid for that still.
Well, and the other thing is the fact that they're like watching this drag show, which back then, especially in prime time in the 70s, man, I mean, it was out there. It's probably the most dangerous part of the show, the fact they're showing men in women's clothes. It was a big deal. I mean, like, wow.
Well, we went outside again for John gets off of a streetcar named Desire, and he is Brando, and he starts yelling for Stella.
Hey,
I'm trying to tell you, baby, there's no Stella here.
I know Stella's there. Stella! This is my house. I know Stella's up there. Stella!
Look, you want Desire and Elysian Fields, right?
Right.
Well, this is Desire and Royal. You're 2 blocks too far south, baby.
Oh, wow. Oh, hey, I'm really sorry.
Hey, that's okay.
I was a little juiced up tonight, and I thought this was my house. I thought Stella was living there. I thought,
It's okay.
Wow, sheesh, wow. See, I tell you something.
We knew this was coming, right, Brad? Like it had to come. Yeah.
No, of course you knew. And I feel like it should have worked, but it's another one. I think the grandness of it all took it away. Like if this was done on a set on stage, I think it's funnier because I think that the end is funny with Garrett sending him on his way and then he leaves and Lorraine comes out and she's like, who's that? And he's like, oh, it was just Stanley. Okay, let's go back in. Okay, Stella. And like the joke's funny, but you don't really get it that much because you're like on this huge wide shot from across the street where like if this is done on a set on the soundstage, I actually think the sketch is pretty funny.
Ian, how did you like this sketch? Or did you like this sketch, I should say?
It was okay. It was John's Brando, which is always fun. And yeah, but I agree with Brad that, the wide shots made it look, it's so like cinematic looking. It takes a little bit away from the comedy.
Dennis, did you like this?
It was all right. It was okay.
Yeah.
Look, I love the idea of doing live sketch comedy on the streets of New Orleans during Mardi Gras. I love that. I don't care how flat the material is. I just dig the fact that they're doing it like out there. Okay.
I hear you, but at some point as a viewer, you got to enjoy it, right?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Of course, I was a kid, but I mean, yeah, of course I enjoyed it because it was vital. It was live. I mean, it was happening as I was watching it. It'd be one thing if it like was taped a month ago and Howard Cosell is hosting. I mean, the fact that it's happening right this minute, I suppose you had to be there, but I remember it being like vital. Now, was it funny? No, I don't think it was terribly funny. I don't think it was funny at all, as a matter of fact. See, that's my whole take on the show. Do I think it's funny as an entire show? Not really. And we'll get to, I know Gary's going to get us through the rest of it, but I don't think, I don't think, I'm sorry. I don't think it's terribly a funny show. It's a courageous show. It's an audacious show. Funny.
Well, I think
that's me. It's all subjective.
I'm kind of curious then, Dennis, as we move on to the next bit. So we go back to Randy Newman, who is now playing the role of host, and he introduces the NBC Video Orchestra with Paul Schaefer and Howard Shore, who are going to sing the time-honored tradition, the Antler Dance. And they go to the corner of Antler Street, waiting for the man in the mask who comes back every 10 years to lead the Antler Dance at Mardi Gras.
And we know who that is.
Right. Yes. And then we see O'Donoghue appear on the balcony and dance to, again, a large crowd of people below him on the street who are all dancing. And Paul Schaefer sings the song in the studio or on the stage. Away from
in the
this
theater.
Yeah, in the theater. Thank you. And then the crowd, it's back and forth between the crowd kind of dancing, but reacting to Michael, who's on the balcony doing the Antler Dance
with the mask.
With the mask on. So wait, Dennis, before I throw to you, Brad, how did you feel about I think you liked this one, right?
I did like this. This was the best part of the night so far. This, to me, was the first genuine fun thing we have seen all night. This is the only thing I think they did that played to the setting of him, Michael, on the balcony dancing to thousands of drunken, crazy people. This worked. This completely worked. I love the song. I love we got the full album version of the song, which was nice to see. When they I love how when they cut outside to the street and they show Paul Schaefer in the little bubble circle and everything about this, I thought was great. It was the only time I think all night they played to their weakness of being in Mardi Gras. I did. I really liked it. It was fun.
And how do you feel about the antler dance generally?
I actually love the antler dance. I think it is his attempt to show that anybody could write a pop hit and a dance craze. And I just think it's funny. I just think it's because it's one of those things that hits the mark perfectly of what it's parodying and satirizing, the 60s dance craze songs. It's gleeful. It's fun. And exactly what Brad said.
Dennis, did you love this, watching this live when it was happening?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
And little did I know I'd end up becoming very good friends with the man on the, up in the mask. I mean, who knew? But in any event, of course I did. Michael, I mean, look, again, he had an absurdist, silly side to him. It wasn't all death, right? And this is one of those pieces that shows that the antler. What the fuck is the antler dance? I mean, he, of course, we remember from the first show of this season, the second season with Lily Tomlin, they end the show with it. And everybody's like going around and doing all this. And yeah, he was trying. No, I don't think he was terribly serious about making this a hit. I think he was doing a parody of it, like Ian says. To be honest with you, I'm amazed they even brought it back. I remember from the the Lily Tomlin show. I'm like, oh, that's cute, that's nice. Then they do it in New Orleans. I'm like, going, really? I mean, I liked it because I love Michael, but I'm like, yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, I'm sorry, Ian. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Interesting thing is that Michael O'Donoghue flew Paul Schaefer out because at that time he wasn't with the show. He was doing that Norman Lear sitcom, A Year at the Top.
Oh, really?
So he came back just for that, just for Michael O'Donoghue.
Well, Michael, the thing is about Michael and SNL is that he had tremendous loyalty among the staff. They loved him. They thought he was the shit. And he was. I mean, he's the first head writer of the show. He told Lauren to fuck off more than once to his face. I mean, nobody did that and got away with it and kept his job. So Michael was a terrorist, a comedy terrorist. Now, unfortunately, he fell in love with this persona to his creative detriment, but that's a whole different thing. But yeah, anyway. That's my answer to Ian. Okay.
No. So then we go back to Jane and Buck again, and this time we get Weekend Update, which
in the middle of a parade.
Yeah, well, they're going to try to do update.
Yeah.
This is amazing. They're going to try to do update.
I know.
It's
ridiculous.
My immediate reaction was, is this a last minute thing they decided to do because of the parade?
Why would you even attempt this? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's a good call.
Right?
Well, I thought that, but then when we have the cutaways,
there's too many bits. Yeah, you're right.
But so we have Weekend Update with Jane and Buck this time. So there's a couple of jokes about Brezhnev and the CIA. They throw in a Generalissimo Francisco Franco joke in there.
Of course. And
then they go to Garrett getting the combination to the city from the mayor, who then says, don't worry, I'm going to change the combination tomorrow. And Evel Knievel. And then we get another Lorraine on the street piece. This time she's talking to John, who has mice taped on his eyes.
Yeah. Taped to his eyes. I love the white mice taped to the eyes because it's like, it's so bizarre. But yet it is in tune with Mardi Gras. There would be drunken revelers who would tape white mice to their eyes. I mean, that. So it's almost like a documentary. It's not even a comedy bit. It's like, yeah, this is something you would see normally. And of course it's John. So, you've got that energy, you've got that brilliance.
Yeah, John legitimately looks drunk in this piece. Like he legitimately looks mad. Yeah, for the first time tonight, he looks drunk.
No, I'm sure he drank. I'm sure they all did.
I'm sure
Bill Murray drank. I'm sure Dan Aykroyd drank. Jane is probably the only one who stayed sober through the entire show. Would be my maybe Gilda, but everybody else, forget it.
They go back to Jane and Buck, and then they throw to the roving reporter Emily Latilla, who is with Bill, who's playing a captain of he's playing the captain of a riverboat. But Emily Latilla asks him about being the captain of a liverboat. And why isn't there a pork boat and some bacon and onions?
God,
and
that's so bad, man.
And is
That
this
is so
really the
bad.
best Mardi Gras themed Emily Latilla gag we can come up with?
probably, because why do you need Emily Latilla at all? Thank you. Good night, everybody.
All right.
No, who's
Randy
talking?
Newman's on next with another song.
Okay, well, can I just say,
Please.
Emily Latilla is like my least favorite character on the history of the show, the first 5 years. So,
Ian, are you an Emily Latilla fan?
When they're funny, like 50% of the time.
Oh, I was going to say
This
twice,
one-
but okay.
Twice.
Presidential elections and Soviet
Cool
jewelry.
busing.
I think that was.
We do end Weekend Update with a good Buck bit, I thought, where he has a correction for about something that Jane reported last week. And she is then handed a paper from off screen, and she starts reading about a shooting. A crazed person in Washington, D.C. has gone to Pennsylvania Avenue and jumped the fence. And Buck interrupts her to talk about the Baton Rouge High School band who's coming down as part of the parade, which is funny because the parade still isn't there.
That's
But
what
also,
I didn't think this worked because there was no parade.
well, I thought it worked because it was Buck and the way in which he did it. And I actually thought it was funnier because there was no parade, because he interrupts this story of a possible shooter in DC, right? Obviously talking about the White House. But yeah, I thought that was the best bit of the entire Weekend Update, which was short. There wasn't much to it, but because it was Buck, I thought it was very good. And it was a typical Buck piece.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they just gave up because they had it written. They just kept it in.
Oh, totally. No, they were not going to change that because it was the funniest thing they had for their Weekend Update.
That's all they had.
Yeah.
Hey, man, look, you take what you got, you throw it. Let's see what happens.
Well, that's what they did. They let Randy Newman sing Kingfish with an orchestra. This is another song off of his Good Old Boys album. Brad, how do you feel about the orchestra with this one?
It's another song. Does not need a fucking orchestra.
Another song.
But it's something, again, this is another one. I love this song. Levon Helm plays a great version of this song on a solo album, but something just felt off about this version. Like if you're a fan of Randy Newman, you know it. It just like the cadence or the pace fell off. I don't know. I feel like, can we just take this time to point out, this is the man who also co-wrote Three Amigos.
Right. With Lauren and who else?
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin,
yeah.
Lauren. Yeah.
And Randy Newman.
And him. Right.
Great film.
Maybe
Should we
can
just
talk about
change
that
gears
sometime.
and talk about that instead?
Let's talk about Three Amigos and how great it
Gary,
was.
round the corner, baby. Round third. Let's go. We're almost there. I can see it. Come on. We're getting there.
Feel like we're rounding second, but we should be third. So again, we go back to Jane and Buck, but this time we go to 1813 and a visit with Jean Lafitte. So Bill is playing Jean Lafitte.
This is his moment.
Talking to camera. Yeah.
This is his big moment.
And he talks about how he doesn't consider himself a pirate and he hates the word pirate. And then it's just Bill walking around talking to his crowd, and Dan comes up and says, "I'm part of your brother's crew, and it's great to be such a wonderful pirate." And Bill shoots him, and then Dan falls down, and then he apologizes, I believe, after he's shot.
Yes, he completely does say stuff after he's been shot. Yes, thank you.
I thought it was funny. And Gilda asks for wine, and then Gilda asks him what type of wine he wants, and then it turns into a sword fight because he wants red and she wants white. And the entire time there are live animals running around the set. And
chickens.
There's chickens, and there's a very loud sheep that's running around buying all over the place.
This is really his standout piece, and he's great. And it shows how just naturally talented Bill Murray was and is. I mean, it's really amazing. I love this piece. I don't think it's funny. It didn't make me laugh. I was just
this is a comedy show, right? Like at some point you want to laugh.
Conceptually, yeah, you're right. But
Comedy variety.
It doesn't have to.
Variety.
It doesn't have to be funny, man. It can be
I don't
interesting.
know,
it can
man.
be weird. It can be stupid. It doesn't have to be funny all the time. I mean,
but at some point during the episode,
gags,
at some point during the episode, you want something to be funny, right?
I am more amazed at the fact that they're pulling off this fucking show in the middle of Mardi Gras than I am like looking to laugh. You know, I'm like going, wait a minute. How do you wait? You know, that's where I'm coming from, man. Because I'm like, I mean, yeah, of course, I want to laugh too. I want my favorite comedy show to make me laugh. But if I can't do that, I want it to be interesting, at least, you know. Anyway,
Live animals makes it interesting. Ian, were you interested in this sketch?
I thought Bill Murray was very funny in it, but I didn't like the sketch at all. I did read about there's a parrot that got shot, and there's a trained parrot, and it was supposed to lie down, you know, when it got shot, but it flew away, and the owner of the parrot never saw the parrot again. So
I'm learning so much from you tonight,
and that's funny. I heard that story too. Yeah, that's a good one.
I know, I've never heard that. Jesus Christ, man. I've been living in a cave. It's ridiculous.
Gary, where's your vote on this sketch?
I didn't love it, but I enjoyed all of the logistics around this with the animals and the thing. There was some technical problems with like the gunshots and stuff, but that was, what are you going to do? You're on I don't know where they were. Do
you see what we've devolved to? We're trying to save this show by like saying how hard it was to pull it off, which I agree entirely. This is a hard show, but like at its core, it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah,
and you're relying too much on laughs. I mean, come on.
I am in a comedy show. I am, because I did not think this sketch was funny at all. I can appreciate the difficulties in pulling it off, and as somebody who like does production and knows what it takes, like this is a fucking monster,
right?
But at the end of the day,
you wanted to be funny. Is the juice funny too? I mean,
was the juice worth a squeeze?
I mean, I think you can ask that about this entire show, and the answer is going to be no.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I don't think this entire show.
I don't think this episode's funny at all. To be quite honest with you,
I think
are you telling me they set out to just make a crazy show and not a funny show? Like,
no, I think they tried to be funny. No, I think they tried to be funny.
But what they did was they dove into Mardi Gras and they dove into New Orleans and Louisiana and that history that's very, direct to that area of the country and not necessarily generally known. So it becomes so hard to then write jokes that everyone will understand when you're confined to this small geographic location, right? And I think that's probably where they messed everything up.
No, I think
part of it.
I agree with you, Gary. That's exactly what it was, and also it was a moment. Yeah, I don't think being funny. It wasn't. I think it was the top of their list. I think just getting the show on the air.
But I think part of it too is because you had so many. You're trying to pull this off in different places. It's not like they were like, oh, we have one set here and one set here, and you have to play in those two places. Like they were trying to do shit all over the place, which then was like, oh, once they had a location nailed down, it was probably like, write something for that location, right? And so it became, and they kept themselves in this box of like, it has to relate to Mardi Gras for whatever reason, or New Orleans.
In New Orleans, so I think, whatever, we're on the streets. Yeah.
You think this is Lorne Michaels too big for his britches? Like you didn't need to be at 15 different locations. Like you could have curtailed this episode to make it less difficult on you to give yourself a little bit more of success. Like this was budgeted what? Like I think I remember it was like $700,000.
Yes,
like you think NBC wants to roll the dice on like something crazy? Like they want fun.
I think Lauren was swinging for the fences.
Right, I agree.
And the budget ended up coming in at almost double that.
But he struck out, but
he completely missed. There's a reason the show never left the studio again.
But to your point, Brad, right? If you get rid of the orchestra and give Randy Newman a quarter of that stage for himself and his piano, and then you like have a set or sets there that you can shoot on, like that gives you more flexibility to have like a home base where you can have something going on and you can swap out sets and then have a few different locations in the city.
Yeah.
Not everything being all over the place.
Exactly. Like the antler dance worked fucking great. Like that's a prime example of something that worked great on the streets. But maybe like the Killer Bees could have been indoor. Anyway,
the Stella thing, right? I mean, there are different things that definitely could have worked better.
In any event, yeah. And again, they kept going back to Buck and Jane because they were they were stationary. Like you didn't have to worry about them going anywhere.
Right.
So
and they were there for a purpose, right? Like that parade, they were supposed to keep going back to that parade, which never happened. Like that was just another piece of bad luck for this show that didn't work out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Neither did our next bit, which was going back to the Apollo Ball.
Is this show still on?
I know. My first note was, oh no, not again. Yeah.
to going back to the Apollo.
Yeah, Apollo there's like, oh no, not again.
Yeah. So we go back to the Apollo. And this time, Cindy Williams is there finally. And they're going to be crowning the queen, who comes out in a beautiful golden gown. And then Cindy Williams starts talking about the queen. And then there's this weird back and forth between Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams, where I think Penny Marshall's like, I think we have to stand up. We should stand up. And this was quick, and this was all over the place. It just felt like no one really knew what was going on the production side. And I don't know.
Well,
I don't.
Again, as an old man here, I can tell you that imagery, that video was really almost avant-garde for the time, especially in prime time. I mean, forget it.
Right. Like
drag
the idea
queens,
of having a drag queen on. Yes.
Give me a break. No, it's not like, later, obviously,
the point of this sketch was to show the queen of the Apollo Ball. And I think to your point, Dennis, right, this was something that was unique for the time. And it was probably seen as like groundbreaking and something that would, and again, this is prime time. We're not talking, I don't think it was
groundbreaking. I think it was just alien. I think for most Americans, middle-class Americans who are watching this, middle-class white Americans, which I come from, and I know these people very well. They're my tribe. I know them. And back then, I'm sure it was like startling. Like, oh my God, that's a man?
And
wearing a gown?
There were a bunch of words they couldn't say, whether it was the network or the organization themselves, that they couldn't use, I think, the term like homosexual or drag. Like there was a lot of things they could not say when saying this or presenting this piece as well to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did end abruptly.
They did.
It?
They just kind of like cut him right out. They're like, bloop.
They were like,
yeah, so it's live. I mean, and it's on location. I mean,
and there was like obviously some disorganization at that location about what was going on and what they were shooting. And so, yeah, I'm sure at some point someone decided, let's cut away and go back to Randy Newman and give him a fourth number rather than letting the meters play.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he comes on to sing Sail Away, which he sang in his first appearance on SNL, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
So he sings Sail Away, this time with an orchestra, which Brad hates all orchestras. And
I actually like this version.
Too late. You already said you hate orchestras.
I did. I like this song a lot. I mean, we did not need 4 Randy Newman songs. No, but like play this earlier and get rid of Marie or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, I think again, this is like, it was not planned to have 4 Randy Newman songs. It was planned to have a parade, which never showed up. And
right.
We'll lose that.
So Randy Newman says he then has his good night.
Good night. Good night to you all. And now over to Buck and Jane.
Thank you, Randy. Jane, you might as well tell them all.
The parade has not been delayed. It doesn't exist. It never did. Mardi Gras is just a French word meaning no parade. Good night.
Thanks and good night.
That's like all worked out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and that is finally our show for the night.
At long last.
Ian, that was their show. How did you feel about this Mardi Gras special?
I feel like I was in it. I feel
That's funny.
I know Lauren.
No.
Lauren threw up for the show.
During the show,
Right,
right?
in the beginning, right when they started losing power with everything.
And they lost power. Yeah, he threw up.
Was that the only time? Because I feel like he should have been throwing up a lot more than that.
I'm sure Lauren threw up a lot in the first season. I wouldn't be surprised at all. No, seriously. I don't know for a fact, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone, confirmed it. But, yeah.
That was rough. I mean, I don't know if anything worked. There was like no flow. It was so just jointed. For being live and on the streets, it felt like it lacked like any kind of real life or energy, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
I'll disagree as I have with Dennis. There is validity to them. No. Like I understand, trying to do something, trying to do the impossible and achieving it, but it's like if you're not making a funny show, was it worth it? And that I don't know legitimately. But I think honestly, maybe they just tried doing something a little bit too ambitious, a little too soon. Like maybe they just weren't ready for this to take the show on the road.
Actually, I think I agree with you.
I agree with Dennis's point. If they did this in season 3 or 4, would it be as quote unquote dangerous or as edgy or out there? No, it wouldn't be.
Right.
But they might have pulled it off a little bit better, and we might have enjoyed
because
it
they're slicker and they know
a little bit better. They know what they're doing. Right. They didn't think it up 4 weeks in advance. Remember that too. This idea came in January. They shot it in February. It's interesting. They never did this again. They never left the studio for 48 years.
I know. And it really is amazing, actually, when you stop to think about it. I mean, especially when the show got its legs. I mean, by the late third, and then, of course, the fourth season, which was the golden season, right? I mean, everything clicked. Everybody, and all the hosts, the show became iconic. Yeah, man, it was spread out. It was too much. I agree with Brad. I mean, it's just like, it's almost impossible to pull off this thing logistically. I mean, it makes no sense comedically. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, again,
I'll agree with Dennis. Like audaciously amazing. Like to set those sites and try to
went for
that.
We just went
amazing.
For it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't pull it off. Not funny, but other than that, great show.
Well, Ian, every week we talk about our best bits from the show. What were your best bits this week?
I'm going to say Eric Idle and the Antler Dance.
All right. But they're pretty good.
Sail Away is my favorite Randy Newman song. And a clip from him singing that in the show is in the 15th anniversary special of musical guests.
Right.
So there is a little piece of the New Orleans show in the 15th anniversary.
Tiny piece. Dennis, what were your best bits?
Losing my virginity, the week that happened, the show. I can even tell you her name, but I won't. In any event, no. As far as the show is concerned, as opposed to me getting laid for the first time in my life, I can see I'm cracking Brad up. I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm telling you the truth. That week of the Mardi Gras show is when I lost my virginity. I'll never forget it.
I like how you wait 2 and some hours into the show to bring this up.
Well, why would I bring it up? You asked me what's my take on it. I go, well, now that I think about it,
So your favorite part of this show was the week leading up to the show. You lost your virginity.
I lost my virginity. Yeah.
I honestly,
but other than that,
no. That was better than anything that you watched in the show.
Hold on. Judges. We will accept it.
Yeah. Look, not for her. It was not.
I don't even know if she's still alive, man. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm 64 years old. I can't imagine how old this woman is. But in any event, well, of course, I love Michael. I'm going to weigh in on his side all the time because I love him and I'll always love him.
So the antler dance?
But I didn't like the antler dance. I thought it was pointless, actually. I mean, it was a great crowd pleaser, and
Right.
you got the crowd going and all that shit. If I have to pick one piece, it would be Belushi as Mussolini. That'd be it, because it came out. It was short. It was sweet. He looks like him. Now, I wish they wrote a better line for him than they did. Like, hey, let's party. That sucked. But up until that point, when he's out there in, the Italian fascist uniform, I thought, God, John's playing a fascist dictator. I dig this, man. All right, cool. Where's this going? And it went nowhere.
No.
But up to the weak line that they supplied John with, I love just the imagery of it. So that, and also, I'll do Slash Brando.
All right.
Because, I think John, because of his Second City training and because he used to do street theater, he was perfect for this venue.
Brad, what was your best bit?
I have nothing to add. It would be antler dance. All right, Gary, bring it home. Let's go. Bring it home. There you go.
That's it. That's our show. I would say my best bit was the Eric Idle bit. That was my favorite thing all night. But that's it. Ian and Dennis, thank you both so much for doing this. Ian, will you just tell our listeners where they can find you, listen to your podcast, find it?
Yes. Ian Talks Comedy. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Well, that's still around, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. It's a lot of fun.
I
really great
I have no
interviews.
podcast or anything. Just, I just hang out on my front porch. That's it. That's all I do. Okay.
This is great.
Shit, Gary, before we leave, we forgot. We started this 4 hours ago. We're in our hiatus between no. Seriously, we meant to say this. We're in our hiatus between season 2 and season 3. Coming up season 3, we're going to have a little special episode coming up in a week or two, I think. We are going to have, in honor of what happens during season 3 on SNL, an anyone can host episode for our own podcast. So listen to that. We're going to put the details out. But season 3, the Not Ready for Primetime podcast, will also be having our own anyone can host contest. Details to follow. If you're still listening, please tune in.
If Miss Will Spillman's granddaughter can host it, that'd be great.
I didn't forget. That's what I was going to say was coming up next week. So now I got nothing to say except good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night.
The Not Ready for Primetime podcast is a 2 Pints Productions production. Produced and edited by Brad and Gary. Thought about by Brad and Gary. Please rate and review. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.